Welcome to the Chronological Bible Journey, where we discover God's whole story, one day at a time. I'm Noah, and I'm here today with Ben as we look at our reading today in Nehemiah and in Malachi. It is day 265. Let's go.
All right, 100 days left after today.
That's right.
It's kind of exciting. The year has flown by. Today's reading, I am reminded that fallen humanity is prone to wander away from the Lord. Mm-hmm. We begin today with a joyous celebration and dedication of the walls of Jerusalem that have been completely restored. They put together two choirs, and their whole purpose is to come and to sing for thanksgiving. Noah, read for us Nehemiah 12, verse 43.
Many sacrifices were offered on that joyous day, for God had given the people cause for great joy. The women and children also participated in the celebration, and the joy of the people of Jerusalem could be heard far away.
I love that. The joy of the people of Jerusalem could be heard far away.
And that couldn't always be said
No.
of his people.
The pain and the anguish that they had gone through over the years, it's just amazing to see where God and how God has restored this people. And what we begin to see is that after this moment, Nehemiah leaves Jerusalem and goes back to Babylon to tend to his duties, because he did have a job there, and he
he told the king, I need to go do this, but then I'll come back. Yeah, he's keeping his word.
Mm-hmm. And but in his absence, the leaders, priests, people, they wander away from the Lord. And what we see in our reading is we just see from both Nehemiah and Malachi ways that they turned away from the Lord. First, we see that they dishonored the Sabbath. It says in verse 15 of Nehemiah 13, "In those days I saw men of Judah treading out their wine presses on the Sabbath. They are also bringing in grain, loading it on donkeys, and bringing their wine, grape, figs, and all sorts of produce to Jerusalem to sell on the Sabbath. So I rebuked them for selling their produce on that day. Some men from Tyre who lived in Jerusalem were bringing in fish and all kinds of merchandise, and they were selling it on the Sabbath to the people of Judah and in Jerusalem at that." The Sabbath day, which they were commanded to keep holy as a day of rest set aside for God, they went and were just doing normal business on it.
And how easy is it for even us to loosen the expectations and the standards that God sets and say, well, it doesn't really matter if we do this, and we just take that step closer and closer to the line that God has drawn.
Yeah, I was reminded of Isaiah 58, I think it's verse 13, where it's talking about the Sabbath. And one of the things that happens that I think we are guilty of so many times is it tells you not to pursue your own interest on the Sabbath day. And I think sometimes we treat Sabbath as a day off, and so that we can basically go do what we want to go do.
It's our day.
It's our day, but it is the Lord's day.
Yeah.
And even though it is for us, but it is for us to keep our minds and our hearts turned towards God. And the reality is when we don't honor the Sabbath, like they were not honoring the Sabbath, it is easy for us to forget about God.
Yeah.
That Sabbath is a weekly reminder about the power and the person of the Holy God.
Yeah.
And we've got to maintain a good Sabbath. And Sabbath, it's hard to imagine, but it's just resting and reflecting on God and how you might do it. So I would encourage our listeners to really figure out, are you Sabbathing? Are you resting and turning your attention to God? Because I think if you don't, there's going to be consequences in your personal and professional life.
Yeah, for sure.
And so they dishonored the Sabbath, but they also intermarried with the pagan nations around them. Nehemiah 13, 23 and following says, "About that same time, I realized that some of the men of Judah had married women from Ashdod, Ammon, and Moab. Furthermore, half of their children spoke the language of Ashdod, and some of the people could not speak the language of Judah at all. So I confronted them, and they called down curses on them. I beat some of them, pulled out their hair. I made them swear in the name of God that they would not let their children intermarry with pagan people of the land."
This guy's intense.
He's intense. He came and he's going to make sure. But you have to sense the seriousness of Nehemiah. It's like the reality is this is what got you in trouble in the first place.
You want to go back to where we were.
Right. We've seen 70 years of exile. We have seen captivities. We have seen times in our city when people were eating each other because of the siege, and yet you want to go back to exactly the way things were. You have to see the seriousness of these sins, dishonoring the Sabbath and intermarrying with the pagans of that day. And what happened to Solomon when he decided to intermarry with the pagan nations and all of those nations around him?
His heart turned away from the Lord.
His heart turned away from the Lord. So when you begin to mix a rejection of the Sabbath day and then going after the culture that is around you instead of what the scriptures say, you're going to turn from the Lord.
And these people right here, they're not, it doesn't say that they're, sacrificing to idols and whatnot, but that's next.
It's next. It's
and
coming.
that's why Nehemiah is pulling out their hair, because that's right around the corner.
Yeah. He does not want to see history repeat itself as it so many times does. And when you think about the idea of sacrifice, that's where Malachi comes on to the scene. During this time of absence, there's a belief that Malachi wrote during maybe that 12 years while Nehemiah was gone. And he begins to prophesy against that same ungodliness that was taking place in Jerusalem at the time. We see that not only were they intermarrying with the pagan nations, dishonoring the Sabbath, but they also defiled the altar of God. Verse 7 in chapter 1 of Malachi says, "You have shown contempt by offering defiled sacrifices on my altar." Then you ask, how have we defiled the sacrifices? You defile them by saying the altar of the Lord deserves no respect. When you give blind animals as sacrifices, isn't that wrong? And isn't it wrong to offer animals that are crippled and diseased? Try giving gifts like that to your governor and see how pleased he is, says the Lord of the heaven's armies. The sacrifices that they were given, there were strict rules. Do you remember any of those strict rules when we talk about those that are supposed to be offered?
A spotless lamb, 1 year old, a male lamb. They were very specific.
Yeah. Without blemish.
Yeah.
What they were taking is they were taking the worst of the flock and saying that's what our God deserves.
Yeah. And what they don't realize yet is that the offering they were meant to give was a prophecy of Jesus who was going to come, who would be the perfect spotless lamb.
Yeah.
And so as they're giving these, they're like, it doesn't matter. Why would we give our best? Because God is going to give his best.
And it's pointing to that coming day. You just think about the reality that they were giving blind animals and sacrifices and the crippled animals. What they were saying is, God, this is what you can have.
Yeah.
How many times when we talk about our offerings, our sacrifices, and what we do in the name of God, does God get our leftovers or those things that we don't want?
Yeah.
And we have to be careful that as we are walking through worshiping the Lord, that he gets first in our tithes and offerings, in our time, and in our talents. The talent that you have, Noah, and you've got a lot of it, that talent is for you to dedicate what he has given you to the Lord so that it is used for his kingdom and his glory, as is with all of our listeners today.
And it is so easy to take the giftings that the Lord has given us and to use them for ourselves and to reserve the best for what we want to do.
Yeah. Such a thing. This song, this keep on coming back to my weird. Lord, I'm prone to wonder, don't I know it? Yeah. Prone to leave the one I love. And then finally, Malachi talks about even the priests who were supposed to maintain the standard, they had abandoned God's instructions. Verse 8 in chapter 2 of Malachi says, "But you priests have left God's path. Your instructions have caused many to stumble into sin, and you have corrupted the covenant that I made with the Levites, says the Lord of heaven's armies. So I may have made you despised and humiliated in the eyes of all the people, for you have not obeyed me, but have shown favoritism in my way that you carry out my instructions." They left, not only did they leave God's path, but they were leading others down that same path. Yeah. It's just a reminder that people are watching. And if we don't honor the Lord in all that we do, if we don't follow his commands, people will follow after us.
Yeah.
And so it's just a sad time when you think about all the joy that started this reading off, and then how quickly, within 12 years, they started going right back to where they had been. And I hope it's a reminder for us today that we will stay committed to God and stay focused on him by following after his commands.
Yeah, and sin is always a slippery slope, and I want to encourage those who are listening. I'm not saying you should go like Nehemiah and pull people's hair out when they sin, but take sin seriously, both in your life and in the community in which you live, because it is a dangerous thing that always leads to death. And that's exactly what Nehemiah saw coming. Hey, I hope you'll join us tomorrow for the podcast as we finish up the Old Testament and look at what all God has done. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.